Hey there, so in this video I would like to talk about marriage synastry in astrology. So the very word associated with the astrological aspect of things, synastry, simply means compatibility between couples, right? So for example, when you take two charts of a husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, dating, romantic dating, but especially if the relationship is consummated, then people change. Some people don't get married, but they can be in a relationship for many years or a shorter period. But you see how people change and transform after they are with somebody, right? Either for worse or for better or for worse. Okay, so we take both charts and we merge them together. So let's say somebody is a Libra ascendant. So the male is Libra ascendant, the female, the girl is let's say Gemini ascendant. Okay, so what happens then? Let's say he has 4 planets in Leo, and then let's say he has remaining planets in Capricorn. So when these two people get married, what happens to the wife? Now we are basing this on the chart of the husband and how it impacts the wife, who is a Gemini ascendant. So the spouse is a Libra ascendant, having 4 planets in Leo, and then the rest of the planets in, let's say, Capricorn. Okay, so the wife is a Gemini ascendant. So how you calculate is, now the wife is Gemini ascendant, so Gemini is Miduna becomes the first house, the second house is Cancer, the third house becomes Leo. So when this person marries the Libra ascendant, these two people get married, her third house becomes very prominent and the 8th house becomes very prominent, because that's where all the husband's planets are, and this would then support and amplify these respective houses, because that's where all the husband's planets are. So before marriage, you may see this person, the girl may not have been a very articulate person, not communicative, but after marrying this man, she's all of a sudden very good in speech, a very good communicator, very articulate, and maybe even venture into business, dealing with people, very, very socially active. Because what is the third house? The house of communication, the natural house of Miduna, right? So, and in this case, the girl, the wife itself, is a Gemini ascendant. So after marriage, it would bring out the natural persona or personality of the Geminian persona in the girl. Okay, so let's say a Taurus ascendant girl marries, I haven't finished, sorry, and the 8th house. Okay, so let's say the spouse also has the rest of the planets in Capricorn. That will then affect her 8th house. Maybe she would have diseases, or maybe she would have inheritances, or maybe some lottery jackpot, other people's money coming into to her, because 8th house as well would become activated. Or maybe she becomes withdrawn, or maybe even separated, because many planets in the 8th house through marriage synastry can also cause separation, divorce, and things of such nature. It can cause ailments, illnesses, sudden transformation, sudden changes. It's a very, very alchemical, deep alchemy, sign of alchemy, the 8th house. And it also has a lot of, it's like this vast, quiet ocean, and any ocean would have many unknown things. It can have great treasures underneath it, and it can have creatures of the deep abyss, which is so unknown and treacherous, and can be dangerous. But that's what Scorpio is. That's what the 8th house is ultimately. You'll have lots of good things and loads of bad stuff, but depends on how you look at it, right? I will make a lot of videos about Scorpio in my coming videos. But anyway, coming back to marriage synastry, is one of something that I have seen throughout the course of my dealing with astrology, how people change and transform after marriage. And there's this question where I made a video earlier regarding to the debilitated planet. So I said it was a vicious cycle. People think that, oh, I can chuck this one, or breakup happens and then they're going to find a better one. Well, it depends really. If your Mahadasha becomes better, then it would minimize the negative impact and effects of a debilitated 7th house, and how your spouse transforms accordingly. So your Mahadashas are important, your Saturn transits, your Jupiter transits, Rahu Ketu transits. So there are so many factors to be taken into account. And I think that is a very interesting topic to talk, because in today's day and age there's just so many separations, so many divorces, and people think, I'll find another one, I'll find somebody else to fit in, and he'll definitely be the better one. A lot of times that can be quite a fantasy for people who understand astrology, and when you see it being played out, you already know. I mean, people are having 2 marriages, 3 marriages, and then after that they stop, and then they just have living in or relationships, no commitment. Sometimes it's just, it's how things are. How astrology is just an effect of your past life karma. The whole astrology chart is like an effect chart for whatever action you've done in another time. So it's just a carry forward. This is how, if you want to study all your karma, you narrow it down and look at Ketu in your chart, and then look at how the 7th house and Ketu's position is actually connected, and what kind of spouse, what kind of person you're always going to attract. So I'll be making more videos and talking deeper into this. This is very interesting things that I have sort of found in my experience with astrology. So I'm going to give you maybe a little bit more example of a marriage synastry. So there was one particular case study, a few particular case studies, but I'm going to take this one up. So she was a Cancer ascendant, her husband was a Libra ascendant, and so the husband had many planets, like almost 5 planets in Leo. Leo becomes the girl's 2nd house, right? And guess what? After her marriage, she was actually from a more poor background. Her family was not really middle class, upper middle class type, and she was always struggling financially. And yes, because they come from such a background, she always had this ambition to be more financially well endowed in the future. And she married someone. He was when they met, he was not doing so well, but he's very smart. He knows how to make money, how to speak to people, and how to make deals, and sort of very business minded, very shrewd personality. And so they met, they married, and eventually he started making a lot of money. And today she's more than quite financially well endowed. And so that's how you see people change in marriage. So he has 5 planets in Leo in her 2nd house, and that boosted her house of wealth. The 2nd house in astrology is basically the house of finance. And then I have seen a chart where Aquarius ascendant girl married a Libra ascendant guy, and he had again 5-6 planets in Virgo. And so they got together. The love is also sweet and like a fairy tale in the beginning, but eventually a long-term marriage that just turned chaotic and brutal, and people become so emotionally volatile and erratic in the relationship, and you find out that he has 5 6 planets in Virgo, which is her Aquarius ascendant's 8th house, which brings in all this deep chaos, emotional volatility, trauma, and separation eventually. And which ones have I seen? Oh yeah, again, I have seen husband wife having 5 planets in Virgo, which is the husband's 4th house, having emotional turmoil leading to heart disease, unhappiness, because 4th house is ultimately your heart, represents home and happiness. And that man did not really have calm and happiness in his home, because the wife can be quite emotionally volatile and erratic. After his marriage, he was a very nice man. But so I have seen how you can use this merging of husband and wife's charts under what we call marriage synastry to gauge how the actual marriage can turn out and unfold eventually. And please don't come up to me and ask, I have my girlfriend, do you think it's the right partner? Do you think if I marry him or if I marry her, I'm gonna have a peaceful married life? I don't do consultations, and I feel is wrong for me to give you a consultation, because I can be wrong. As a human, we're not perfect, and we make mistakes in perspective and perception. So I don't do any form of consultations, and you need to learn yourself, so you have a sense of leverage in gauging and perceiving your significant other, or you want to really commit and tie the knot with this person. But at the end of the day, when it comes to relationships, I think we cannot be too robotic about it. Maybe I'm just speaking in my feminine female hormone driven of a perception, I don't know. But a male can be more rigid and direct and very strict in his perception when it comes to relationship. But as a woman, I feel I go with my heart, not my left brain, and I would rather not look at astrology as a partner, rather use my intuition. And again, I think it's just my female hormone driven brain talking. But if a man were to come in, he would be more shrewd about it and more left brained about relationships. But anywho, I just don't do any form of consultations, and but I can help you, I can teach you to actually show you what we can expect out of a person when you marry, and how they can potentially transform or change. But some of the red flags would definitely, that is staring in our faces, would be a debilitated 7th house, or a debilitated 7th house lord, or a debilitated planet in the 7th house, unless you have a very very strong Mahadasha that's going on, that is going to minimize the ill effects, right? Apart from that, I think I would do another video very similar to marriage synastry, because I just have a lot to talk, and the time is so limited. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna end it here, and I shall see you around in my next video. Take care. Good night, as it's night here.